Hello and welcome to the English version of the adapter series. Out of popular requests, a lot of people ask me that I have to do it in English. So the words, as you here see, might be in German, so a little bit education for you, but the voice, my voice, will be in English. So adapting lenses is a very interesting and also fascinating stuff for me, to have sometimes old lenses, sometimes new lenses, adapting to the fantastic new cameras, the system cameras which we have nowadays. Cameras which have the ability to capture the light and the atmosphere of even the old lenses in a pretty good way. So some basic stuff, as you might know, a light comes in through the lens and is collected to the sensor. This one we call the focal length. The focal length is very important in the construction of a lens, and if the light doesn't come from infinity but from a closer source, we have to adjust it a little bit. In German we call it Auszug, which is just a thing with the bellows. And so we have one thing which we call register. Register is the distance between the sensor and the bayonet. And there are a lot of funny names for this, focal plane stuff and this and that, but we just call it the correct name, it's the register. The register in a system camera, in a mirrorless camera, is much smaller because it's mirrorless. It don't have the mirror. It don't need a place for the mirror. So it could be manufactured much smaller. And it is actually manufactured much smaller, even half of the size of it. A usual single lens reflex cameras is kind of 2 inches, and all the system cameras are usually below 1 inch of distance between the sensor and the bayonet. And this is very important for the adapters, because when you have, here is the blue arrows, a lens which is made for a single lens reflex camera, you can adapt it very, very easy with just a piece of metal, which is kind of a tube. On one end, a mother bayonet, on the other end, a father bayonet, and connect it to your mirrorless camera. Here, some more information about the register. As you remember, register the difference between the sensor and the bayonet, which is on a Leica R, 47 millimeters, so a little bit more, or a little bit less than 2 inches. And all the usual single lens reflex cameras are kind of between 42 and 47 millimeters. A Leica M has 27 millimeters. And so a little bit more than 1 inch, and most of the mirrorless cameras are below 1 inch, except is the Samsung NX. So most of these cameras are between 17 and 19.6 millimeters. One camera has a smaller register, it is the Pentax Q 9.2, because it's even a much smaller camera. So to adapt a Leica M lens on a mirrorless camera, you have to adjust this distance, kind of 7, 8, 9 millimeters, and to have the distance conquered between a lens which is made for a single lens reflex camera and a mirrorless camera, you have to have this distance conquered. So this is how these adapters look. The Metabones adapter, which I'm especially now presenting. The Metabones adapters have some special things built in. Here you see usual adapters, just on front, one bayonet, on the other end the other bayonet, from left to right, Leica R to Micro Four Third, Leica M to E mount, the Sony stuff. On the bottom is the Leica M to Micro Four Third. You see there is a very small ring because it's just 7 millimeters you have to adapt. And standing in the rear is the Nikon bayonet to the Fuji X mount, and you see a very special ring on this. Do you see the figures 8 to 2 and then F on this? I will explain it a little bit later. And then on the right you see the Leica R to X mount. You see a little foot where the adapter is staying on, and this is built in the adapter, and it's not only a usual screw thread built in a 1/4 inch, but it's also a very nice foot. And this foot may resembles you to a special thing. Most of the modern ball heads have the fittings for the Arca Swiss plates, and when you take a look at these Arca Swiss plates, it's the same size as the Metabones foot, which is brilliant that these adapters fit so well in the quick release plates of the ball heads. So pretty nice thing. But now to the practical part. Here's the Leica Elmarit R 2.8 180 millimeters. It's kind of more than 30 years old with the adapter on a Sony 7R, a full frame 36 megapixel camera, which works pretty nice with these really good Leica lenses. And here's one of the examples I shot just last week. Very small depth of field, which is pretty nice, long focal length, and an open lens 2.8 brings you to this. But people think that you just can shoot non-moving objects with non-autofocus lenses, but hey, we shoot more than 100 years action photos with manual lenses, and you can do this too with these lenses. Just work with the different helps you get from the cameras, with the focus peaking, with the loops you can put on the camera. So very easy stuff. And here's my Dachshund Lupert running straight in ahead of me. And if I make the 100% look on in Photoshop, you see the sharpness is point blank. So pretty good. And you can have also very exotic combinations, like here the 560 6.8 Telute, even on the Sony A. And this is a shot I've done far away. And here's the proof from a tower, which is here on the station I got here, a gas filling station. Very close to 7 kilometers, so approximately 45 miles away. And here's also the 100% crop. The 100% crop, even because it's raining and windy, it still works well. So just give it a try. The different adapters, pretty nice lenses, and even exotic ones. And as I mentioned, even lenses like the Nikon G lenses, which don't have an aperture ring on the lens itself. They are built just to get adjusted through the camera. But with an adapter, you won't do this. So here we got a ring on the adapter to adjust the aperture. And I should have a short video to show you this. Just turn this ring and the aperture will be adjusted. This is not the actually f-stops, as you might know. It's just from full to 8. So different stops will be done because it's different on each lens. And there are also other very special adapters from Metabones, and this is the Type 3 Canon EF, so EOS mount, to E mount, the Sony mount for the mirrorless cameras. And here I have some, you see some pins in the adapter, so you might not think that it's not your usual dump adapter, that it is a smart adapter. And this is a real smart adapter. I put on the A7R the 2.8 L lens, 24 to 70 millimeters, version 2. Pretty nice lens, works really good. The 2 type is much improved in the quality against the usual 2.8 24 to 70 millimeters. So it works pretty good on this camera. And when you take a look through the camera, through the Sony, you see different things. You see the whole resolution is supported. and you see the f-stop. You can adjust the f-stop through the Sony camera. You just turn the wheel on the camera and the f-stop is adjusted. And you have a whole EXIF support. You see on the EXIF data which f-stop you have done. And even the image stabilization is supported. The whole communication from the lens through the camera and the camera through the lens is supported. And one really funny thing is also supported, and I press a button and what happens? The autofocus is working. Even from the Sony camera to the Canon lens, the information of the autofocus is done. And it's even faster than with the Canon mirrorless camera itself. This works not only with the Canon lenses, it works also with the third-party lenses, like here the Sigma, one of the best wide-angle lenses I know, the 1.4, 35 millimeters, brand new A version, pretty good, and this is a nice combination. And that's the funny part. If you have things like that, you can adapt it. You can use it on all cameras you get. And if you got a crop lens, this is a lens which is made for the cameras with the APS-C sensor, so a smaller sensor, a smaller size of the sensor is used when I use it with a full frame camera. Even the information of the crop is submitted. So the camera goes down to 15 megapixels from 36, and we got here the information that the frame is slower. And even with this lens, it works pretty well with the autofocus. Beep, and you get it in catch. So pretty nice. The adapters exist for the most important mirrorless cameras, Micro Four Third, Sony E, and Fuji X. There are a lot of more adapters to these things than the ones I will show you in a second, but these are the most important ones that we have in stock. So from Canon EF, the Canon EOS bayonet, we've seen there is one to the Sony E with the Arca Swiss foot, with autofocus, with the crop, with the image stabilization and the EXIF information. We got adapters from Leica M to all the three important cameras, from Leica R to Micro Four Third, with the Sony E and the Fuji X. There we have the Arca Swiss foot. Sony Nikon F, the older lenses where you have the aperture on the lens. There are all three things available. It's a little bit cheaper than the one with the G, where you have the f-stop adjustment on the adapter, and there we have also all three things available. And now these has been the usual adapters. The usual adapters, no glass in it, with just the tube got information through. But there is one special thing, and what we call the speed boosters. The speed booster are adapters with glass in it. And to explain how they work, I'm going a little bit in the history. And we had for a long time, and we still have, the extenders. In Germany we call them Teleconverter. The extenders are very easy then. It is a concave lens which is in the light, and it extends the focal length. So we have a longer focal length just through this extender. And if we have been successful in the school, we might have learned that the f-stop is the thing, the focal length, sorry about that, the focal length and the diameter, the mechanical diameter of the f-stop. So when we have a longer focal length and the mechanical parts are the same, you lose light. You lose light. And that's why we have, when we have a 1.4 extender, we have from a 2.8 200 millimeter telephoto lens, we have a 4.0 280. 200 millimeter by 1.4 is 280, and the f-stop is a little bit slower from 2.8 to 4. One stop, we lose light. And when we got a 2 times tele extender, we got with a 2.8 200mm lens, we have a 5.6, 2 stops, 2.8, 4, 5, 6, 2 stops, and the focal length goes from 200 to 400. So with the speed booster, we have another thing. With a speed booster, we don't have a concave thing, we have a convex thing. So we collect the light to a smaller focal length and to a smaller field. So the light is concentrated on a smaller plane. And because we concentrate the light, we gain light. So the adapter has a focal length multiplier of 0.71. So we have the 1.4 40mm speed booster. We have a 1.0, drum roll, 1.0 35mm. And the important thing, you just can use it on a crop camera because we collect the light to a smaller plane, so we get more light but on a smaller plane. And so the view and the characteristics of the lens are on a crop camera the same like on the full frame camera. And the proof is in the pudding. I show it to you. Here got the Spider Lens Cover, very nice tool. Also to usually it's meant to adjust on your single lens reflex camera the autofocus, but it's also very useful for tests like that. Here I got the photo with the A7 in a full frame mode, the Nikon 1.8 50mm. If I switch the camera to crop mode and tell her, hey, I got a crop camera, or like a Sony Nex camera, like all the different Canon cameras, all the 1.5 or 1.6 crop cameras with the APS-C sensor, it looks like this because the 50mm thinks they are 75mm. So it is a smaller field of view. So if I go back, so I adjust the distance, go a little bit back, I got a picture like that, the same size of the lens cal I ever got on the full frame. If I use the speed booster, I don't have to adjust the distance. I got the same distance because it goes to 35mm. The 35mm thinks on the crop camera that it's a 50mm, and voila, we got the same thing. And I want to enlarge a little bit the scale. And here you see a very fascinating thing. On the full frame, you got 1 centimeter in front, 1 centimeter in the back. But if I use a crop camera, I have a problem. The depth of field is much larger, which is sometimes good. But when I want to have a very small depth of field, to have the cinematic look when I'm filming, or to have when I'm shooting portraits, very small depth of field, this is no good. I don't want to have this. And with a speed booster, and with the same lens, have this effect. You see the same characteristics of the lens on a crop camera as on a full frame camera. The very fantastic stuff. And this exists for the 3 major mounts of the mirrorless cameras, Micro Four Thirds, Sony Nex, and I'm putting here Nex because you need the crop camera, and Fuji X. We have a focal length multiplier of 0.71, but there are 2 additional camera types which we can supply. It is the Blackmagic Cinema Cam, which uses the Micro Four Thirds bayonet, but a smaller sensor, and the Blackmagic Pocket Cam, a pretty nice professional crash camera with a Micro Four Thirds bayonet and a 1-inch sensor. And here we got focal length multipliers of 0.74 and 0.58. And we have a gain in light with a standard speed booster of 1 f-stop. With the Blackmagic Cinema camera special adapter, we have 1 f-stop and 1/3 of an f-stop. And with the special adapter, the speed booster for the Blackmagic Pocket Camera, we have a gain in speed of 1 f-stop and 2/3 of an f-stop. So nearly 2 f-stops are the lens is faster. So we got this from Canon EF to Sony NEX with a feed, with the autofocus and everything. From Leica R to the 3 major mirrorless cameras, and from the Nikon G with the f-stop on the adapter, we got all 5 major things done. So if you got a Nikon, you pretty well with the Blackmagic cinema camera or the Blackmagic pocket camera. And we have one special adapter additionally from Sony Alpha to Sony NEX. So if you are a Sony guy, very easy done. And just one word, additional word on the Blackmagic pocket camera. As I told you, you gain more or nearly 2 f-stops. And what does it mean? When you attach this with filmmakers very, very interesting 1.8 80 to 35 millimeter Sigma lens, this lens with the special adapter for the Blackmagic pocket camera, and again, drum roll, you have a 1.0 10.5 20.3 lens. Pretty fantastic. So go outside, play with your lenses, play with your cameras, have funny combination like here, very old Leica lens, an old Leica bellows adapted to a mirrorless camera from Panasonic in this way, and through the TTL cable, through an Olympus flash, very easy done, modern style with the digital camera, but with an old lens. So with a German greeting, I wanted to say you hello. Allzeit gut Licht, which means always good light, which is very important for us photographers, and even with our old glasses. And have fun with this, play with it with your old stuff. So bye bye.